Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are swinging for the fences.
We really are.
We are tackling the big one, the topic that has, I don't know, launched 1,000 ships, 1 billion songs, and probably a trillion very regrettable late-night text messages.
We are talking about love.
We are talking about love, and, usually when you hear a podcast about love, you expect something like relationship advice, or maybe a literary analysis of Romeo and Juliet.
Right, or someone reading poetry over some sad piano music.
Exactly, which is all fine, but that is not what we do here.
Not at all.
No. We are leaving the sonnets at the door. For the next hour or so, we are stripping the romance out of romance.
They're going to sound a bit cold, maybe?
A little. I mean, look at our stack of sources for today. It's frankly kind of clinical. We've got evolutionary biology papers. We've got fMRI brain imaging studies. We've got psychological frameworks with geometric shapes even.
Triangles. Love is a triangle.
Love is a triangle. And we even have data science algorithms that claim they can predict your divorce before you even cut the wedding cake.
It's definitely a look under the hood kind of deep dive. We're taking this, this magical, mystical emotion, and we're trying to figure out the mechanics, the gears, and the pulleys behind it all.
Which sounds a little unromantic, doesn't it? Deconstructing the magic.
You could see it that way. I mean, sure. But I'd argue that understanding the machinery, why you feel those butterflies, why heartbreak feels like you actually broke a bone, why you sometimes ignore red flags the size of a billboard.
Right.
I think understanding that actually makes the experience more profound. It turns mystery into maybe clarity.
So that's the mission then. To try and answer the big question, is love just a chemical trick the universe plays on us to get us to replicate our DNA? Or is it something more? Is it like a sophisticated survival mechanism?
Or just a beautiful madness.
Or just a beautiful madness?
Spoiler alert, it's kind of all of the above.
Okay, let's dive in. But, before we get to the brain scans and the chemicals, we have to define what we're even talking about.
Which is the first hurdle.
It really is. We ran into this problem immediately in the research stack. There was this Reddit thread we pulled focused on the science of love. And the very first thing people were arguing about was, how do you even study this? How do you measure it?
Right. In science, this is called operationalizing a variable. It's a huge deal. If you want to measure heat, you use a thermometer. Simple. If you want to measure speed, you use a stopwatch. But how in the world do you measure love?
Is it how fast your heart beats when you see them? Is it how much money you spend on their birthday?
Is it how long you stay together? Is it just a self-reported feeling? I mean, they're all so flawed.
It's slippery.
It's incredibly slippery. And the consensus now from the psychological community, and it's all over our sources, is that love isn't actually one thing. It's not a single emotion like, say, anger or fear.
It's more complex than that.
Much more. It's a suite of systems. It's an architecture.
An architecture. I like that. So if it's an architecture, let's look at the blueprints. The most famous blueprint we have in the stack is from a psychologist named Robert Sternberg. It's his triangular theory of love. Now, I have to say, when I first saw this, I kind of rolled my eyes. Love is a triangle. It felt like high school geometry class.
It does look dry on paper, I'll give you that.
Right.
But it's actually one of the most robust models we have for explaining why different relationships feel the way they do. Sternberg argues that all the love you can experience is composed of 3 distinct components.
The 3 corners of the triangle.
Go 3 corners of the triangle.
Okay, walk us around the triangle. What's at the top?
So the top corner is intimacy, and it's really important to define this. This isn't sex, by the way.
Right, not physical intimacy.
Exactly. This is the emotional component. It's the warmth, the closeness, the bonding. It's that feeling of safety you have with someone. It's looking at a person and feeling like they just get you.
It's the best friend factor.
That's a perfect way to put it, the best friend factor.
Okay, so that's one corner, warm and fuzzy. What's next?
If we go to the bottom left corner, you get passion. This is the hot corner.
The fire.
This is the fire. This is the drive that leads to romance, physical attraction, and sexual consummation. It's that intense, can't stop thinking about them feeling. It's the spark.
Okay, so intimacy is the warmth, passion is the fire. What's the third corner?
The third corner, bottom right, is decision commitment. This is the cognitive side of love. You could call it the cold corner.
The rational part.
The rational part, exactly. And it involves 2 distinct things. First, there's the short-term decision to say, I love this person. And then there's the long-term commitment to maintain that love through thick and thin.
Okay, so we have the warmth, which is intimacy. We have the heat, which is passion. And we have the cold logical decision, which is commitment.
Hmm.
And the whole theory is that you can mix and match these in different amounts.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting, or maybe a little depressing, depending on your relationship history. There are 8 possible combinations of these 3 corners.
8 types of love.
Or non-love.
Let's run through the big ones, because I feel like everyone listening is immediately going to start diagnosing their exes right now.
Oh, for sure. Well, the baseline is non-love. That's the absence of all 3. That's your relationship with the person at the grocery store checkout. Or, hopefully, your mailman.
Unless you have a very specific and probably very complicated relationship with your mailman.
True. But, okay, let's add one component. What if you just have intimacy? Just the warmth?
So no passion, no commitment.
Right. Sternberg calls that liking. This is deep friendship. You feel incredibly close, you share all your secrets, you trust them completely, but you don't want to sleep with them, and you aren't planning a life together.
That makes sense. We all have those relationships. So what about the opposite? What if you only have the fire? Just passion.
That is what he calls infatuation.
Wow.
This is love at first sight. It hits you like a truck. Your heart races, your palms sweat. You are completely obsessed.
You can't eat, you can't sleep.
Exactly. But you don't actually know them, so there's no real intimacy, and you haven't made any real promise to them, so there's no commitment.
Infatuation is usually where the bad decisions happen, I'm finding.
Oh, absolutely. Because it feels so much like love. It's so powerful.
Mhm.
But without the other 2 corners to stabilize it, it's extremely volatile. It burns out just as fast as it lights up.
Okay, now for the bleak one. What if you only have commitment, no heat, no warmth, just the cold decision?
Sternberg calls that empty love. And you often see this in the final, decaying stages of a stagnant marriage. The couple stays together for the kids, or just out of habit, or for financial reasons.
Well, they share a house and a bank account. That's the commitment.
Right. But they live completely separate emotional lives. There's no warmth, no passion. It's just an arrangement.
But the research mentions something really interesting here about arranged marriages. A totally different perspective.
Yes. This is a fascinating cultural flip. In Western culture, we see empty love as the tragic end of a relationship.
The finish line.
Right. But in many cultures with arranged marriages, it's often the beginning. It's the starting block. You start with the commitment, the cold, logical decision made by the families, and the hope, the goal, is that intimacy and passion will grow over time from that foundation.
That is such a flip. We start with the explosion of passion and infatuation, and then hope we can build commitment on top of that shaky ground.
And they do the exact reverse. And honestly, the data on the success rates of arranged marriages suggests that starting with the cold corner isn't necessarily a bad strategy at all. It might even be more stable.
Wow. Okay, but let's look at the more dangerous combinations.
Yeah.
What happens if you mix 2 of them? Like, say, passion and commitment, but you skip the intimacy part?
So you're hot for each other and you've decided to get married, but you don't actually know each other. You haven't built that best friend foundation.
Yeah.
Sternberg calls this fatuous love. And fatuous means silly or foolish. This is the Vegas wedding, or the Hollywood whirlwind romance.
They meet, the chemistry is off the charts, and they're engaged 2 weeks later.
Exactly. It's a huge gamble. Because without intimacy, without that deep shared understanding of who the other person really is, the commitment is based on a projection. It's based on an idea of a person.
Not the real person.
Not the real person. And once the passion inevitably fades, which it always does, you wake up one day and realize you've legally bound yourself to a complete stranger.
That is a terrifying thought.
Yeah.
So the goal, obviously, the ideal state, is to have all 3 corners working together.
That's right. Consummate love. The center of the triangle. A balance of intimacy, passion, and commitment all firing at once. It's the Goldilocks zone. It's rare, and it's incredibly hard to maintain over a long period, but is what we're all chasing.
The Holy Grail. But, Sternberg's triangle isn't the only framework in our stack.
Mm-hmm.
There's a more modern one from a paper in PMC that proposes a quadruple theory.
Right.
And it adds a 4th dimension that I think is absolutely critical.
Yes, this model builds on what's called the AAC model, attraction, attachment, caregiving, but it specifically breaks out respect as its own separate pillar.
I found this fascinating because usually we just kind of lump respect in with intimacy or love as this general positive feeling. But this theory says, no, you can absolutely love someone and not respect them.
And that is a complete disaster. Exactly. The theory argues that respect, which is, genuinely admiring the person's character, valuing their opinions even when you disagree, is the specific antidote to toxicity in a relationship. It directly references John Gottman's famous research on the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse in relationships.
The 4 behaviors that predict divorce.
Right. And the deadliest of all the horsemen, the one that predicts the end with the most accuracy, is contempt.
Contempt is the opposite of respect. It's poison.
It is. Contempt is looking down on your partner. It's mocking them, using sarcasm, rolling your eyes. It's the feeling that you are fundamentally better than them. The research is crystal clear. You cannot have a healthy, loving relationship where there is contempt.
So you might still have attraction. You might still think they're hot. Or you might have connection, you've got years of history, you share kids. But if the respect is gone, the whole structure just collapses.
It's at the foundation, and if it rots, the house falls down. It explains those couples you see who seem to fight purely to hurt each other. The biological bond might still be there in some twisted way, but the respect is gone, so it's just toxic.
And the really weird part of this paper was how this quadruple theory also applies to brand love.
Oh, yeah, this was wild.
Okay, wait. Brand love. Like me loving my sneakers.
Yes. The researchers make a compelling case that we use the same fundamental neural circuitry to bond with companies like Apple or Nike or whoever that we use to bond with people.
No way.
Think about it. You have attraction, the design is sexy, the product is cool. You have connection, it's part of your identity, it says something about you. You have trust. You believe the product will work reliably, and you have respect. You admire the brand's mission or its innovation.
So when I get into a heated argument with an Android user about why my iPhone is better, that's romance.
In a neurological sense.
Yes.
You are emotionally pair bonded to a multi-trillion-dollar corporation.
I hate that. I hate that so much. Okay, let's pivot before I throw my phone out the window. We've got the psychological maps, the triangles, and the squares. But the maps don't explain why we're built to travel this road in the first place. Why do humans do this?
Right, because we're the weird ones. Most mammals don't do this. 97% of mammals are not monogamous. They mate the male parts ways.
Right. Maybe the mother raises the offspring for a bit, but the father is long gone.
Exactly. But humans are bizarre. We move in together, we share Netflix passwords, we raise kids for 2 decades, we stay together for 50 years. Why?
And the answer, which comes from evolutionary biology, is honestly, it's not very romantic.
Yeah.
It's about our hips.
It is entirely about our hips. It's called the bipedalism theory.
Okay, explain this. How did the simple act of standing up and walking on 2 legs lead to marriage and Valentine's Day?
Okay, so you have to rewind a few million years. Our primate ancestors decide to stand up and walk upright. This is a huge advantage. It's great for seeing over tall grass to spot predators, and it frees up our hands to carry tools and food.
Oh, good so far.
All good, except for one massive anatomical problem. Walking efficiently on 2 legs requires a change in the shape of the pelvis. To create a stable gait, the pelvis had to get narrower.
A narrower birth canal. I think I see where this is going.
At the exact same time in our evolutionary history, human brains were exploding in size. We were getting smarter and smarter. So now you have an engineering crisis, a complete evolutionary bottleneck.
A fetus with a giant head trying to exit through a pelvis that is getting smaller and smaller. This is the obstetrical dilemma.
Exactly. Nature had 2 choices. Either a huge percentage of mothers and infants die in childbirth, which is an evolutionary dead end, or the babies have to be born early.
Before they're fully cooked.
Right. Human babies are born in a state of what's called altriciality. It's a fancy word for totally and completely helpless.
I mean, you compare a human baby to almost any other mammal. A horse, for example.
It's an incredible contrast. A foal drops out of the womb and it's standing within minutes, running within an hour. A human baby. It can't hold its head up, it can't find food, it can't even burp itself. It is essentially an external fetus.
A loud, leaking, very needy potato for at least 6 months.
Correct. And this created a massive, unsustainable burden on the mother in the ancestral environment. Think about it. A mother simply could not carry this helpless infant forage for enough calories to feed both of them and protect them from predators all by herself. It was impossible. She needed help.
She needed a partner. A provider.
She needed a provider, and crucially, she needed him to stick around. Not just for the fun part, which is making the baby, but for the incredibly hard, multi-year part of raising the baby.
So natural selection started to favor the men who felt some kind of chemical urge to stay, the ones who felt a bond.
Bingo. Love, in this theory, is essentially a bribery mechanism. It's a powerful neurochemical glue that evolved to keep the father attached to the mother and the child long enough for that big brain child to survive to maturity. If the father felt nothing, he'd leave, the baby would likely die, and his genes wouldn't get passed on.
So romance is basically a survival strategy for our big brains.
Yeah.
We invented love because our babies are born too early.
It's an intensely practical adaptation. But okay, that explains why we bond. But there's another evolutionary theory in our stack that explains the intensity of that bond, the drama of it, the craziness,
Ah, this is the handicap principle.
the handicap principle.
Oh, I love this part of the research. This is the peacock tail theory.
Yes, this comes from the brilliant biologist Ahmad Zahavi, and he was looking at the peacock and just thinking, this makes absolutely no sense from a survival standpoint. The peacock's tail is a disaster.
It's a liability.
A huge one. It's heavy, so it's hard to fly. It's huge, so it gets caught on things. It's brightly colored, so predators can see it from a mile away. And it requires a ton of calories to grow and maintain.
It's like walking around a war zone wearing a giant neon "Eat Me" sign on your back.
Exactly. So why on earth did evolution select for it? It should have been bred out of existence. Zahavi's genius insight was that the tail is a signal. It's an advertisement, a receipt even.
What's it advertising?
The peacock is saying to the peahen, look at me, I am so strong, so healthy, and my genes are so superior that I can survive despite this ridiculous, massive handicap.
It's a flex. It's the ultimate show of fitness.
It's an honest signal, and that's the key. If the tail were cheap to grow, if it was light and easy, any weak, sickly bird could fake it. But because it's so expensive to survive with it, you know it's not a fake. Only the best males can pull it off.
Okay, so birds have ridiculous tails. Humans, for the most part, do not. How does this apply to me buying flowers for a date?
Emotional commitment is our handicap. Think about what happens when you fall head over heels in love. You do incredibly stupid, expensive things from an evolutionary perspective.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, for starters, you stop looking for other mates. You effectively take yourself completely off the reproductive market. That is a massive evolutionary cost. You are slamming the door on any other genetic variety.
You're putting all your eggs in one basket.
All your eggs in one basket. You spend money you don't have on dinners and gifts. You drive across the country for a weekend. You annoy your friends by talking about this person constantly. You risk your reputation. You make yourself vulnerable.
One of the sources used this great metaphor. It called it handcuffing yourself to the tracks.
That's the perfect way to think about it. When you fall in love, you are signaling to your partner, I am willing to behave irrationally. I am willing to sacrifice my other options, my resources, and my own self-interest for you.
And the irrationality is the whole point.
Yes, that's what makes it an honest signal. If love were perfectly rational, if you were sitting there with a spreadsheet calculating the pros and cons of your partner, you wouldn't be trustworthy. Your partner would think, the second a better option comes along with a higher score on the spreadsheet, they're gone.
Well, because you're acting crazy? Because you're obsessed and not thinking straight? That proves it's real.
It proves it's real because sham emotions are easy to fake. We can all fake a smile. We can fake being polite to our boss. But it is very, very hard to fake the obsessive, all-consuming madness of early romantic love. It's an honest signal because it's so costly and irrational.
That puts a whole new spin on the phrase, love makes you do crazy things. The crazy is the feature, not the bug.
The crazy is the proof of purchase.
Okay, so we know why we have these powerful systems. Now let's talk about what those systems are. Let's get into the chemistry lab, because I think most people have this idea that love is just one chemical. Like someone shoots you with a Cupid's arrow dipped in love juice, and that's it.
And that idea is completely wrong. And frankly, it's a dangerous oversimplification.
Why dangerous?
Because the groundbreaking research by Dr. Helen Fisher shows that there isn't one love system in the brain. There are three, and they are distinct, separate, and can operate independently. They use different brain regions and different hormones.
Okay, break them down for us. System 1.
System 1 is lust. This is the sex drive. It's fundamentally driven by testosterone and estrogen in both men and women. Its evolutionary job is simple. Get you looking for potential partners. Anyone. It's casting a very wide net.
Okay, so that's lust. System 2.
System 2 is attraction. This is what we typically call romantic love. This is the obsession, the infatuation, the dopamine high. Its job is the opposite of lusts. It focuses all your mating energy on one specific person.
It narrows the field from many to one.
Precisely. And System 3. System 3 is attachment. This is the calm, long-term bond, the feeling of deep security and peace you have with a long-term partner. This is driven by hormones like oxytocin and vasopressin. Its job is to keep you together long enough to raise those helpless children.
Okay, so lust, attraction, and attachment. 3, separate systems. Why is understanding this separation so important? You said it was dangerous not to.
Because, and this is the part that keeps therapists in business and explains a huge amount of human drama, these three systems can operate independently and simultaneously. Meaning you can feel deep, profound attachment to your spouse of 10 years. You love them, you trust them, you've built a life together. At the exact same time, you can feel intense romantic attraction, that obsessive, crazy in love feeling for someone you just met at work.
Oh, wow.
And at the exact same time, you can feel generalized lust for a total stranger you saw at a bar.
All at once. The brain can run all three programs at the same time.
All at once. The brain is perfectly capable of it because they aren't mutually exclusive neural systems. They evolved for different reasons.
That is chaos. That sounds like a recipe for absolute disaster.
It explains so much about human behavior, doesn't it? It explains why people are so prone to cheating, to love triangles, to feeling deeply conflicted in their relationships. We aren't built with a simple one-at-a-time switch. We have to use our conscious minds to override that messy biological wiring.
Let's double-click on that second system, though. Attraction, that obsession phase. Because the comparison the sources make here is really startling. They compare it directly to hard drug addiction.
It's not just a comparison. From a neurochemical standpoint, it's the same neural pathway. When you put someone who is madly in love into an fMRI scanner and show them a photo of their beloved, the part of the brain that lights up like a Christmas tree is the VTA, the ventral tegmental area.
The reward factory.
It's the engine of the brain's reward system. This is the exact same region that becomes hyperactive when a person smokes crack cocaine or snorts amphetamines. It floods the brain with dopamine.
So when people write songs and say, "I'm addicted to you," they're not being poetic.
No, they're being medically accurate. The symptoms of romantic love and cocaine addiction are identical. Think about it. Tolerance. In the beginning, just seeing them once a week is enough. Soon, you need to see them more and more to get the same high.
Right. Then it's every day.
Withdrawal. When they are gone, you feel physically sick, you get
Yeah.
anxious, you can't sleep, you feel shaky. And relapse. You break up, you're finally doing okay after a few months, then one little text message hits your phone and you are spiraling right back to square one.
And there's a specific concept here from the research that I found really illuminating. It's called incentive salience. Can you explain that?
Yeah, this is a crucial distinction. It's the difference between liking something and wanting something. We usually think those are the same thing, but in the brain, they are not. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical, it's the wanting chemical. It's about motivation and craving.
Do you give an example?
The classic example is a longtime smoker. They might not even like smoking anymore. It makes them cough, it smells bad, it makes them feel guilty, the pleasure is gone. But they want it. They crave it with every fiber of their being. That intense craving, separate from any pleasure, is incentive salience.
So in a bad relationship.
You might not even like the person anymore. They might treat you badly, you might argue all the time, they might be annoying, but that dopamine system, that addiction pathway, is screaming, I want them. I need them.
That is terrifying. You can want what you don't like. Your brain can work against your own happiness.
That is the very nature of addiction. And what makes it even worse, what makes these bonds so incredibly sticky and hard to break, is uncertainty. This brings us to the slot machine effect.
This was the part of the research that made me genuinely angry at my own brain. Explain intermittent reinforcement.
Okay, imagine you're at a slot machine in Vegas. If you pulled the lever and won $100 every single time, you'd actually get bored pretty quickly. It's predictable, there's no thrill.
Right. It just becomes a job.
And if you pulled the lever 100 times and never won, you'd walk away. You'd quit. It's pointless.
Of course.
But what if you win randomly? Sometimes you get a big payout, sometimes you get nothing for 20 pulls, sometimes you win $5. You never, ever know what's coming next.
You stay there all night. You keep pulling the lever.
You keep pulling. That unpredictability, that intermittent reinforcement, spikes dopamine in the brain higher than any other pattern of reward. The anticipation of the reward becomes more powerful and addictive than the reward itself.
So how does this apply to dating? This is the scary part.
Think about the partner who plays hot and cold. One day they are texting you nonstop, telling you you're the most amazing person in the world. That's the big jackpot, the win. The next day, they ghost you. Complete silence. The loss. Then 3 days later, out of the blue, a 2 a.m. you up text.
The little $5 win that keeps you playing.
Exactly. My brain is treating that person like a slot machine. And when they finally text back after ignoring you, the dopamine hit of relief and excitement is massive. It's much, much bigger than if they had just been a consistent, reliable partner who texts you back in a timely manner.
So we are biologically wired to become more obsessed with people who treat us badly, or at least inconsistently.
In the short term, in that attraction phase, absolutely yes. The research calls this frustration attraction, the barrier, the uncertainty, the anxiety. It doesn't kill the passion. It actually fuels it. It makes it stronger.
It's the Romeo and Juliet effect.
It is the textbook Romeo and Juliet effect. If their parents had just said, sure, that's great, date whoever you want, we support you, they probably would have broken up in a month from sheer boredom. The obstacle, the prohibition, is what turned it into a grand, tragic romance.
Well, that explains so many toxic relationships. You think you're feeling this incredible deep passion, but really what you're feeling is just anxiety and dopamine dysregulation.
You don't have a love problem, you have a gambling problem.
Wow. Okay, so that's the high. But we can't stay in that state forever, can we? The crack cocaine phase of love. You just burn out.
You would. It's metabolically incredibly expensive. If you stayed in that high dopamine, no sleep, no eating state for too long, you'd literally die. Evolution has a plan B, the transition to the third system, attachment.
The cuddle hormone.
The cuddle hormones, oxytocin and vasopressin, these are the stabilizers. While dopamine is the gas pedal, oxytocin is like a warm, weighted blanket. It's about calm. It lowers stress. It quiets the amygdala, which is the fear center of the brain. It builds trust.
And to understand this, we have to talk about the prairie voles.
The rock stars of love research.
They really are. They're all over these papers. Explain why these little rodents are so important to understanding human love.
Okay, so most rodents, like mice or rats or the montane vole, are highly promiscuous. They mate and they move on. Zero long-term bonding. But their cousins, the prairie voles, are paragons of monogamy. They pair bond for life. If one partner dies, the other one often stays single for the rest of its life.
So scientists wanted to know why. What's different about their brains?
They looked at their brains and found a key difference. Prairie voles have a very dense network of receptors for oxytocin and vasopressin located in the brain's reward centers. Their promiscuous cousins, the montane voles, don't. They have far fewer.
That's it. The only difference is the number of docking ports for these chemicals.
That seems to be the main driver. And they proved it. In a landmark study, scientists were able to inject a harmless virus into the brains of the promiscuous montane voles. This virus delivered a gene that made their brains grow more of these receptors.
And what happened?
Boom! They became monogamous. They started choosing a single partner and pair bonding with them.
That is wild. It suggests that something as complex and moral-seeming as fidelity is, at its root, just a matter of receptor density.
It suggests that the capacity for deep, long-term bonding is a biological switch. And in humans, oxytocin does something else that's really interesting. There's a theory of co-option that suggests romantic love is basically the brain hijacking the system that was originally built for mother-infant bonding.
Wait, say that again? Romance is repurposed parenting.
In a way, yes. Think about the behaviors. What do new lovers do? They stare into each other's eyes for hours on end, just like a mother and a newborn. They want to be physically touching constantly. They feel intense distress when they are separated.
And they use baby talk.
Oh, God. This is my little schmoopy Will.
Exactly that. Why do we, as fully grown adults, talk to other fully grown adults like they are infants?
Because we are activating the same maternal and paternal bonding circuitry. Evolution is efficient. It didn't need to reinvent the wheel for pair bonding. It just took the incredibly powerful Mother Loves Baby program and pointed it at man loves woman or woman loves woman.
So when I call my partner baby, I am being disturbingly literal.
Biologically, and yes, you are.
I am never, ever doing that again. Okay, but there is one more chemical in this attachment cocktail that I found surprisingly dark, and that's opioids.
Yes. Endogenous opioids, our body's natural painkillers.
We usually associate this with like a runner's high or with morphine from a hospital.
Right, but the brain opioid theory of social attachment, or BOTSA, suggests that positive social contact, especially with a loved one, releases these opioids in the brain. Being with the one you love literally numbs physical and emotional pain.
And there was a specific study on this, right, in the stack.
A great one. They took people in committed relationships and subjected them to mild physical pain, like a hot probe on their arm. When the participants were looking at a picture of their partner, their subjective pain ratings dropped significantly.
And it wasn't just a distraction effect, like looking at any picture would do it.
No, they controlled for that by having them look at pictures of strangers or objects. It was a specific chemical analgesic effect. The love was acting like Tylenol.
Which implies that the opposite must also be true.
Correct. And this gives us a powerful biological mechanism for the agony of heartbreak. If being with someone releases a steady, calming drip of natural opioids into your brain,
Then breaking up is literally opioid withdrawal.
you are going cold turkey.
From your own brain chemistry.
Exactly. That's why heartbreak hurts physically. Your chest actually aches, your stomach turns, you feel like you have the flu. Your body has lost its primary supply of natural painkillers and is screaming in protest.
So when someone says, I'm heartbroken, they're not being dramatic. They are in a state of neurochemical withdrawal.
Science says, give them a break. And maybe some ice cream. They are suffering.
This is a lot of biology. I mean, we are peacocks, we are addicts, we are prairie voles. It's a whole zoo. But we are also modern humans living in 2026. We have data, we have algorithms, and the data section of our research stack was, I'd say, sobering.
It's where the magic of romance really goes to die, but where the practical, useful advice really begins.
Let's talk about predicting the future. We absolutely have to talk about John Gottman. He's like the godfather of relationship data. He's famous for claiming he can predict divorce with over 90% accuracy.
And he can do it in about 15 minutes of observation. It's astounding.
I mean, is he a wizard? What is he looking for?
No, he's a mathematician of emotion. He created something called the Love Lab. He brings couples in, hooks them up to physiological sensors, heart rate monitors, sweat detectors, and then he just gives them a simple instruction. Argue about something you disagree on. Money, the in-laws. Who does the dishes?
And he just watches how they fight.
He watches how they fight. And he found a magic number. The single biggest predictor of relationship success. The 5.1 ratio.
This is the most famous metric in relationship science. Explain it.
Gottman and his team coded every single second of these arguments. They found that in successful, stable, happy couples, for every one negative interaction during a conflict, there were at least 5 positive interactions.
Okay, I have to stop you there, because that sounds completely impossible. 5 to 1. If I snap at my partner because the dishes aren't done, I have to then say 5 nice things to them to make up for it. That feels like I'm keeping a scorecard. It sounds exhausting and artificial.
It does sound high, doesn't it? But I think we have to redefine what a positive interaction is in this context. It's not about grand gestures. It's not buying 5 bouquets of flowers to make up for one argument.
What is it then? What counts as a positive?
A positive can be incredibly small. It can be a nod while your partner is speaking to show you're listening. It can be a shared laugh in the middle of a tense moment. It can be saying, I see your point, even while you still disagree. It's what he calls a bid for connection or a repair attempt.
And a negative is the obvious stuff.
An eye roll, a sarcastic comment, a dismissal like waving your hand, raising your voice.
So why is the ratio so skewed? Why not just 1 to 1? A good for a bad?
Because of a fundamental feature of the human brain called the negativity bias. Our brains are like Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones.
That's a great way to put it.
A nasty comment from your partner can stick with you and ruin your entire day. A nice compliment might make you feel good for 5 minutes, and then it slides right off.
Yeah.
So you need 5 of those small positive moments just to balance the emotional scale back to neutral after one negative hit.
That makes so much sense. One mean comment can just poison a whole evening.
Exactly. And Gottman found that if that ratio drops, if you're at 1 to 1, or God forbid, 0.8 to 1, where you have more negative than positive, the relationship is statistically doomed. He can sit there with his clipboard, count the interactions, and know with chilling accuracy if they'll be divorced in 5 years.
And he looks for specific relationship killers, too. The 4 horsemen.
Right. Criticism, defensiveness, stonewalling, which is just shutting down and refusing to engage, and the worst of them all, contempt. We talked about contempt earlier with the quadruple theory. It's the single biggest predictor of divorce. If you see your partner as beneath you, if you roll your eyes at them when they speak, just start packing your bags.
Okay, so data can predict the end of a relationship. Can it predict the beginning? What about all the dating apps and their compatibility algorithms?
This is where it gets really tricky and interesting. We all love the idea that some magical algorithm can sort through millions of people and find our one true soulmate. But the data from these studies consistently contradicts a huge cultural myth we all believe in.
Which is?
Opposites attract.
Not true. But all the romantic comedies told me it was.
Statistically, it's garbage. The data overwhelmingly supports the exact opposite. Birds of a feather flock together. Similarity is by far the strongest predictor of long-term success and satisfaction.
Okay, but similarity in what? Is it that we both need to like the same movies and the same kind of pizza?
No. And that's the common mistake people make. They put on their dating profile, oh, he likes hiking and I like hiking, we're perfect for each other. But shared hobbies or interests are actually pretty poor predictors of long-term compatibility. They're nice to have, but they don't hold a relationship together.
So what's the kind of similarity that actually matters?
Shared core values, and what researchers call shared meta-emotions, which is how you feel about feelings. How do you view money? How do you view the role of family? How do you handle anger? Are you a yeller or a sulker? Do you both want to live in a bustling city or a quiet country home? These fundamental life goal similarities are what matter.
So you don't need a partner who loves golf if you love golf. But you do need a partner who values spending money and time on leisure in the same way you do.
Exactly. It's about how you want to navigate the world, not what you consume while you're in it.
There was one more data point from this section that I found. Let's just say bracing. It's the timeline of the dopamine phase, the expiration date on the butterflies.
The slow fade. This is so crucial for people to hear and understand. The data is very consistent. The intense, passionate, obsessive, high dopamine phase of a relationship typically lasts between 12 and 18 months.
That's it.
Maybe 3 years if you're extremely lucky, or if you're in a long-distance relationship where the novelty is maintained. But for most couples living together, it's about 18 months.
3 years max.
That's just biology. The brain cannot sustain that level of metabolic expenditure and chemical intensity forever.
Yeah.
Your dopamine receptors downregulate, the VTA quiets down, it has to.
So what happens at the 2-year mark when that feeling starts to fade?
That is the crisis point for so many couples. A huge number of relationships end between the 12 and 24-month mark. And the reason is that people misinterpret the loss of the high as a loss of love.
The spark is gone.
The spark is gone. It just doesn't feel the same anymore. Something must be wrong with us. But the science says nothing is wrong. This is supposed to happen. You are just normalizing. You're transitioning from the addiction phase to the attachment phase, from dopamine to oxytocin.
If you expect that initial high to last forever, you'll just be a serial dater your whole life, chasing that first hit.
You will. And that's remarkably comforting, isn't it? It's not that you or your relationship is broken. It's just that your brain needs to calm down and settle in for the long haul. Real, sustainable love is what happens after the dopamine fades.
I want to touch on one final aspect of how the brain plays tricks on us. We've talked a lot about how it adds chemicals like dopamine, but it also subtracts things. It actively turns parts of the brain O off F.
The love is blind phenomenon, and it's not a metaphor, it's a documented neural event.
The source material brought up this amazing 19th century concept called crystallization.
Yes, from the French writer Stendhal. He tells this beautiful story about the salt mines in Salzburg, Austria. He says if you throw a dead twig, a plain, ugly, leafless stick into the depths of the mine and leave it for a few months,
What happens to it?
you pull it out, and it's completely covered in glittering, multifaceted salt crystals. It looks like it's made of diamonds. It's been transformed.
And we do this to people.
We do this to people. In the early stages of love, we take a regular person, a twig, with all their flaws and imperfections, and we project all of our own hopes and desires onto them. We coat them in crystals. We overestimate their intelligence, their humor, their kindness. We systematically minimize or ignore their flaws.
And the fMRI brain scans actually confirm this is happening.
They do. It's incredible. When you put someone in a scanner and show them a picture of someone they are passionately in love with, the neural pathways associated with critical judgment and negative social assessment are actively suppressed. They go dark.
So the parts of your brain that you use to judge a person's character or spot red flags literally shut down.
Your brain puts on blinders. It deactivates the skepticism centers.
Why? I mean, that seems incredibly dangerous from a survival standpoint. That's how you end up dating a serial killer.
It is dangerous. It's why people get into bad situations. But from an evolutionary perspective, it's necessary. If you saw a potential mate with perfect 20/20 rational vision on the first date, with all their baggage, their annoying chewing sounds, their questionable political opinions, their bad breath, you'd probably never pair bond with anyone. You'd always find a reason to run away.
So the brain basically drugs us with dopamine and blindfolds us with neural deactivation just long enough to get us hooked.
Exactly. It tricks us into making a commitment. The hope is that by the time the blindfold comes off a year or two later, when the crystals melt away and you see the plain old twig again, the oxytocin bond of attachment is strong enough that you don't care. You love the twig anyway.
That is so diabolical.
It's incredibly effective.
But what happens when that bond breaks? We touched on the physical pain of withdrawal. But there's also this rage component. The research called it abandonment rage.
This is the final, cruel kick in the teeth from our biology. You would think, logically, if someone dumps you, your love system would just shut down. You'd go numb and move on.
Right. The rational response is, they don't want me, so I don't want them.
But the fMRI scans show the exact opposite happens. Helen Fisher found that in recently rejected lovers, the activity in the VTA, the craving center, actually increases. The craving gets stronger after the breakup.
Why on earth would it do that?
It's that mechanism of frustration attraction again. From an evolutionary perspective, the prize, your reproductive partner, is slipping away. So the brain dumps all its remaining resources into a final, desperate, panic-driven attempt to win them back. It's a survival instinct kicking into overdrive.
So you feel the most intense, desperate passion for them at the exact moment they're walking out the door.
Yes, it's this toxic, horrible mix of panic from cortisol, rage from blocked goals, and intense craving love from dopamine. It's why breakups can make perfectly normal people act, frankly, completely insane. The stalking, the pleading, the angry texts, it's a biological storm.
It sounds like a glitch in the software. A terrible bug.
Or a feature designed to make us fight like hell for our genetic future, even when it's a lost cause.
Okay, we have covered a massive amount of ground here. We've gone from bipedal hips to peacock tails, from cocaine brains to prairie voles, from salt mines to divorce algorithms.
It's a lot to process. It's a whirlwind tour.
So let's bring it all back to the listener, to the learner. Why does all this science matter? Knowing that my deepest feelings are just dopamine and oxytocin and vasopressin, does that ruin it? Does it cheapen love?
I really don't think so. In fact, I think it empowers you.
How so?
Well, first, it normalizes the entire messy experience. If you feel crazy and obsessed in the beginning of a relationship, you're not crazy. That's just biology. If you feel the spark fade after 2 years, your relationship isn't failing, it's just transitioning. If you feel hopelessly addicted to a toxic ex who treats you inconsistently, you aren't broken. Your brain is just stuck in an intermittent reinforcement loop.
It takes the shame out of it. It's not a moral failing.
Exactly. It's not a personal failure, it's human programming. And secondly, and I think this is the most important part, it highlights the power of Sternberg's third corner, decision commitment.
The cold corner, the rational part.
The chemistry is a wave. It crashes over you. You can't control when the dopamine hits or when it fades, but you can control the commitment. You can control the respect. You can consciously work to maintain that 5-to-1 ratio. Real lasting love isn't just a magical feeling you fall into. It's a decision you make and remake every single day.
It's a verb, not just a noun.
It's a verb. It's a practice. It's choosing to build something even after the initial chemical storm has passed.
That's actually really beautiful. We have a prefrontal cortex for a reason. To override the leisure brain when we need to.
That's the hope, anyway.
I want to leave everyone with one final provocative thought. It actually came from that Reddit thread we started the whole deep dive with. Someone posed a question about artificial consciousness.
Ah, the AI question. Where this all leads.
Right. We've basically spent the last hour mapping the code of love. We know the inputs. Dopamine, oxytocin, vasopressin. We know the variables. Proximity, similarity, uncertainty, the handicap principle. We know the desired outcome. Bond maintenance.
We have the algorithm, more or less.
So if we programmed an AI with exactly these variables, if we gave it a reward function that mimics dopamine, a bonding parameter like oxytocin, a signaling system based on costly commitment, would it feel love?
That is the hard problem of consciousness, the problem of qualia.
Qualia, what is that?
Qualia is the subjective internal experience of something. A computer can identify the exact wavelength of red light, 700 nanometers. It knows everything about red, but does it see the color red the way you and I do?
A computer can simulate all the behaviors of love. It could say, I love you. It could write a poem. It could maintain a 5-to-1 ratio. But does it feel that ache in the chest?
Is the feeling just the math? Or is there a ghost in the machine that we can't account for?
Science can explain the mechanics, the gears, and the pulleys.
But I don't think we've found the ghost yet.
And until the robots start writing truly terrible poetry and making very bad decisions at 2 a.m. for someone who doesn't love them back, I think we're safe.
I think so too.
This has been a fascinating ride through the machinery of the heart. Thanks for diving in with us.
Anytime. See you next time.